just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that I'd just drop by and let you know that I'm leaving town tomorrow. I'll cause you no more sorrow. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. I brought the money like the lawyer said to do. It won't replace all the heartaches I've caused you. It won't take the place of loving you, I know. I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go.
Good morning. Welcome back to the channel Grand Colombia, and welcome to Coffee Time Live. Every Sunday, 11 a.m., with few exceptions, but I may have an exception next Sunday. I don't know yet. Things to do, places to go, things to see. Okay. Weather's beautiful. And I spent another week burrowed in and working, and I've got the studio set up. And now I think there's some kind of weird echo or sound from this microphone I haven't figured out yet. That'll be interesting. This is my first live since I've got this set up the way I have it, and so I'll be interested to see when I play back how it sounds, how it worked out. But the good news is I now have control over some things that I didn't have in the past. So that's pretty good, hopefully. So how's everybody? We got survivors. Rob, hello, Rob. How you doing? Phil, Happy New Year. No, I refuse. John, good morning. Gopal Kapoor. Happy New Year. Mike, how you doing, Mike? I sent you a message this morning. It's for a project, and I need a little help. Yuka, how you doing? I see that H-N-Y, and NY is always New York to me, so I'm going, what's the H? Oh, a Happy New Year, yeah, okay. The chat went silent. Am I still broadcasting? Yes, I am. Okay, so you're just waiting for the topic, right? Well, I have, I think, an interesting topic, maybe a little more serious than usual. But first, I'm going to cover something personal. So if you don't want to hear anything personal, you might want to come back in 5 minutes. I got a message a few days back telling me that someone I knew most of my life had stage 4 cancer. And then I got a message from my brother a couple days after saying this person had died. And it's personal, but I bring it up because when you're living away from your home country, things like this, for example, if I were, back there and I got this, I probably would have set a bunch of things aside and gone to see this person. Not really possible, right now in the situation we have, particularly with vaccine requirements and all of that sort of thing. So, you have those things to contend with. And then it depends on, you have to look at your personality. See, for me, I started generating losses in my life at a very young age. I mean, I wasn't even out of high school. People just started falling to the wayside. And then you go in the Marine Corps and you're involved in a conflict and you lose friends there. And so I've got this probably completely unhealthy way to handle things, but you know, I just move on. I don't dwell on things. And they say, well, that'll come back to bite you. Well, you know, I'm getting up there, getting near the 70 years of age, and hasn't bit me yet. But I want to just talk for a minute about this person. This was the first girlfriend I ever had. You know, from up until I was 10 years old, I was very poor. You know, living off the land and hunting squirrels for food, and it was pretty pathetic. Then from the age of 10 to 15, I was either in school or working in it became my stepfather's junkyard. That was my life. And so I was 15 at the time, and I went to this party. Now, that's something that I never really got to do, living out in the country, and you know, it just wasn't there was no extracurricular activities in school, and you know, it just didn't happen like that. But I'd worked for a car, so I had this 1957 Oldsmobile, awesome car, and I worked an entire summer for this car. That was my pay. And so now I got this car, I've got my driving permit, and I go to this party. It was just a party in a house. There were probably 20 some people there. First one I'd ever been to. And sitting in this chair against the wall, it was, you know, if you put in the, you know, cliche time, if you put in the word wallflower in the dictionary, this was the picture. Well, that was her sitting there. She wasn't from my school, so that made her instantly exotic. She had the longest dark hair I'd ever seen in my life. It went down to like halfway down her butt. And she was gorgeous. And so I was really intrigued by that. And again, I'm 15 years old. You know, so I went over and I talked to her, and, you know, we got to know each other, and we started dating. Now, she wasn't in my school district, but she wasn't that far away from where I was living. And so I would drive over these dirt roads to her side of the world and pick her up. And most of the dating was in this 57 Oldsmobile, to be honest with you. And I was her first, and she was my first. And I would sit in her driveway at night with her parents, you know, wondering what was going on out there, because the driveway was a little far away from the house. And the music at the time was the Cream, In-A-Gadda-Da-Vida, Iron Butterfly, things like that. That's, you know, we were playing, that's the music we would play, and that was our romance music, if you can believe that. It was, you know, it was what was popular at the time. So she was a great person. I was kind of a horrible person. I was very conceited. I was very selfish, and I never really treated her very well. And she was in and out of my life for a number of years. And, yeah, I always considered myself probably the scourge of her life, but she never treated me that way. And she was just a really good person. And it seems that most people that I know are gone now. You know, there's just, you know, outside of newer people. And so I'm not sitting around depressed about it. I mean, I haven't really mourned her loss because I haven't seen her in probably 20 some years, but it's more of a reflection on, you know, how she came to be in my life. And so I tell you that story because depending who you are, what your personality is, will make a difference to you how you're going to handle these things. You need to think about it because, you know, when you move away, you think about all the, well, it's a beautiful place, the weather's great, you know, the cost is low. I mean, all of this is just wonderful, right? But you get things like this, and how do you handle it, and what's it going to mean to you? So there's that. HD Chillin, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm assuming, I'm not really getting any direct comments here. I'm assuming that you're still hearing me. You never know on this. Okay, you did hear me. Cream Sunshine of Your Love. Born at a Bad Time. Just discovered your channel. Enjoying the content I'm seeing so far. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. I was a little self-indulgent there for the last 5 minutes, but I do that once in a while. Yeah, it wasn't much of a story, but I did decide that I would mention that because I don't think people that move to a place like this or Ecuador or wherever give that part of it a lot of thought. So it's just something to consider. Okay, so my topic today, and I worked this up a number of days ago, and I haven't gone back to look at it, so I may hunt around a little bit, but I'm top of mind aware of the topic. So there's 5, I would call them macro issues about Colombia that are really going to define the future of Colombia. And living here, it has a lot of importance. Now, I'm not talking about topics such as, you know, is it safe and what's the cost of living and, you know, all of that kind of stuff. I'm talking about aspects of Colombia that will have a deep and long-lasting impact. Now, the first one, it's kind of a no-brainer. It's we'll say the vaccine issues, but the all-encompassing, what is the role of government and how does it come to play in people's personal lives and their independence and freedom of speech and all of that. But it's also affecting tourism. And tourism is a big part of the economy of Colombia. And when tourism takes a hit, Colombia takes a hit, Colombians take a hit. And right now, there's a lot of things up in the air, and it depends on which way it goes. I know that there's several people that were planning to be here, one this week, another one in 2 weeks, and because of the requirement of having both number one and number 2 vaccines, they didn't have enough time, so they had to actually cancel their flight. One rescheduled in March, the other one I don't know yet. But if I'm seeing that, then you know it's happening, you know, all across the country, and they're gonna take a big hit on that. And I think they really need to consider the efficacy of this, the variants that come in, and you know what's actually happening with this. You know, personal opinion is, you know, I think it's kind of run its course, and we're seeing that in the last variant. But you know, who knows? Who knows? But that's you know, it's something to watch and see and understand that there's a very deep impact to the economy. Number 2 is the economy, managing the economy. If a government can manage its portion of the economy, I'm not suggesting having a managed economy, but what is the level of taxation? What do they do with that tax money? Here's the problem for Colombia, and this is where the socialist-inspired protests of last year come into play. There was talk, there was conversation in the government about having to raise some income. Now, they have to raise the income, they have to, or the country is going to take a hit in its trade rating. And if it takes a hit in its trade rating, that means they're going to lose investments. And those investments in the economy are huge to Colombia. So in other words, if Colombia has a big pharmaceutical industry, if there's certain investments that come in, that pharmaceutical industry will do better, provide more jobs, generate more income for Colombia. It's just better all around. It's so the country can grow. If it takes a hit on that trade rating, not only you might not see new investments, but you might have people pull out. And that would be, I don't think devastating is too harsh a word. I mean, maybe a little softer, but it would have a huge impact. And so how the government is going to resolve this, but basically the protests last year, they put it on the table. And so it hasn't been determined yet. And so it's pretty important that they figure out what they're going to do, because the clock is ticking. And I think there's only another year or so that they have to sort this out. And it's not really related to the dollar exchange rate, but all of those things matter. Which brings me to number 3. We got a big election coming up, 2022 election, new president. And as where most people are from, it begins to put a lot of pressure on. It's difficult to get things done, because you don't know who's going to be in power. And there's a lot of things that it's critical get addressed that are twisting in the wind, the one I just mentioned, but there's other things. And this election will have a direct impact or this election will have a direct impact on the direction that Colombia goes. Is it going to be pulled more to the left? It won't be pulled more to the right, but is it a matter of, will it still be within reason, or will it swing into the bounds of, the danger zone? We don't really know. There was a socialist candidate last time around that got 40-some% of the vote. So that's, it's a big question that won't be resolved until, the end of this year. Number 4 I've got is the foreign policy. The U.S. is a huge influence on Colombia. And not because, we send money to Colombia. Well, we send money to most countries on the planet. But there's always been a very close relationship between the United States and Colombia. And with the last president, that remained, and it was actually growing somewhat, particularly over the Venezuelan situation. You have to understand that the problems in Venezuela directly affect Colombia, and it's not good for Colombia. What's been happening for a number of years in Venezuela, and there was a partnership evolving over that issue. Now, with the new regime in the United States, that has disappeared. It's completely disappeared. And it's left a vacuum. And at the same time, you have China putting on full court presses. And I'm stumbling over my cliches here. They're really putting the pressure on countries with, we want to help you with all this extra money, but if you don't, you're not going to be part of the club. It's a tough situation. Now, you just had Cuba sign on to the Belt and Road Initiative with China. In this area, that just kind of increases the pressure. Venezuela will gain strength from this situation, which is not good for Colombia. So the foreign policy of countries like the United States, having good and direct and active relationships with Colombia, not just the U.S., Spain and Germany and France especially has a lot of impact in Colombia. There's a strong connection with France. And as they kind of back away from being active with Colombia, it causes Colombia to look and say, well, maybe I don't have the best partners here, and maybe I need to consider other partners. So where the foreign policy goes of other countries is up in the air right now and has obvious future issues tied to it. And the last thing that I'm going to mention, then we're going to get to Q&A, most people's favorite part, is the, I hate this. I hate it when people do this, but the peace agreement with the FARC. My personal opinion, I don't really think applies in this particular topic, but what the peace agreement was, think of the issue of slavery in the founding of the United States. You had the originators of the United States have a number of debates about that topic. And a lot of people wanted to address it right at the beginning of the country. And there were other people, because of their own vested interest or because of the people they were representing, they really didn't want to get into it. And so it was kicked down the road. And when it was kicked down the road, then you had the Civil War, where it just kind of blew up and it became so much worse than if they just addressed it at the time. Well, this peace agreement I apologize, with the FARC is kind of like that. There were a lot of issues that were unresolved in this agreement. And the FARC is rearing its ugly head. Their political party, they actually dropped the name FARC, and they're called, commune? Or common in English. So that they could get away from the stigma of it, but it's the same people. And so, they've got a political party, and when they change their name, it's actually gaining some ground. In some areas of the country, I talked about this last week, they still exist. They just don't call themselves the FARC. A lot of the drug situation with Mexico is with the people that are the FARC. And this affects investors, of course, as well as what I mentioned earlier. And so how this government handles the growth of the FARC and similar organizations of the FARC. Now, it's not like they're exploding, but they're certainly not shrinking. They are gaining power, and by making ties with Venezuela and Cuba and with the drug cartels in Mexico, where there's funding, it just makes it more difficult to root them out. I mean, the idea originally, before the last president, Santos, who decided to do compromise, prior to that, they were basically eliminating them. And there was great progress over a number of years in getting them down to almost nothing. But then, Santos came in and he made the agreement, and everything was kind of status quo for a few years. But now they're putting their network back together, putting the band back together, like the Blues Brothers. And how that's handled is going to have a lot of impact. So I think I gave this a lot of thought, and I think these are the 5 biggest issues as to what's going to affect Colombia long term and what kind of country we're going to be living in here in Colombia. All right, let me get to these comments, and then we'll go to Q&A. All right, the dollar exchange rate has been slowly going up. Some ways it helps, other ways it hurts. Absolutely. Export side, import costs go up. You're absolutely right. It is certainly a trade-off. My wife just got back from Colombia. She didn't have any vacation. She's a Colombian citizen, so it may be different for foreigners versus, okay. I wish the U.S. would get out of China and move our business to the Americas. Well, there's actually a lot of people that have been saying that for decades. But, what are you going to do? A lot of logistics, I have knowledge of it being a difficult task just because of stronghold on China. You're right. We created a monster. Hugo, good morning. You think kids can have a better childhood in Colombia instead of USA? We're open to relocate if that's good for our son. People are very angry here. Thanks. Well, I think, George Harrison said it, all things must pass. And I think what's going on in the United States, will pass. I think we're seeing the death throes of the direction that was headed in. And I think it's going to, kind of come back to the middle, and some semblance of sanity will take hold. And one of the best indicators, in my opinion, are the people that claim to be independent. And 60% of the independent voters, which is huge, say that things are really messed up and we need to reverse course. So, I think a lot of this craziness is going to go away. And I think you're actually seeing some of it go away. Some people that would, lash out, particularly on social media with these, kind of indoctrinated ideas, a lot of them have been falling silent. I think there's a realization of what's actually happening, and I'm glad to see that. Having said that, here in Colombia, I absolutely think it's a great place to raise a kid. There's so many things that you don't have to contend with in a negative way here in Colombia. And it really stems to, some of the basics. I'm a child of the 60s and Woodstock and all of that. Free love, sex, drugs, rock and roll. I mean, that's what I grew up in. But the truth of it is, there really is nothing better for a society than a strong family. And that is Colombia. That's what Colombia is all about. After you strip away the beautiful countryside and all of the things about Colombia, the fruits and flowers and all of that, what you're left with are these strong families. And that is what Colombia is. And so your neighbors are going to watch out for your kids like their own. There's a level of respect here. One of the reasons Americans, including me, are considered to be rude is because we grew up to be cynical and to look at power and tear it down. And here it's not like they're blind and they're lemmings, but they give people respect. Even people that they disagree with, they give a level of respect to. And that's a good thing for a kid to learn. So I absolutely would think it would be a great place to raise a kid. Employees are willing to accept $1 an hour. Businesses will return to the U.S. Huh? I don't know what that means. I think I kind of get your point, but it really isn't about that. And that was proven a couple of years ago. If you create a certain business climate that's not cutting the legs out from under a business, they can compete in the United States, because there's things that happen in the United States that don't happen in China. I don't know how many of you remember, but when I was growing up, anything made in Japan was trash. It was just, you didn't want to buy anything made in Japan. Well, over time, they improved the quality of that. And now made in Japan is like made in Germany, made in the United States. It's considered to be a high level production, a high quality product. Things in China, not so much. Things in China are crap for the most part. And the only thing that comes out of China that's really decent are the things that are being controlled, designed by countries from, Germany or the United States or Canada that are doing business in China. And so if you buy it from them, they're using the cheap labor, but it's a decent product. So the truth of it is, at 15, 20, 25 an hour, whatever it is that, you know, a factory's paying its employees, they can compete if they don't have the government strangling them. And so, you know, and people have this idea, they completely misunderstand business. They say, well, businesses aren't paying their fair share. Well, that is, if you know anything about business, that's one of the most ludicrous statements, and I hear it repeated over and over again. A business is not a person. The money comes in and the money goes out. If you put a tax on a business, all that does is require that they increase the price. Who's paying that price? People. The people are paying that tax. It's another way to tax people. It's not like the business has a pot of money in there. It's all accountable. And if you ever run a business, you realize now you can draw from, if you're the president of the company, you can give yourself a salary and all of that. But the business itself, the business entity, it just doesn't work the way people think. And the U.S. can absolutely compete, and they showed that a couple years ago. It's just when you revert back to the policies that caused business to leave in the first place, then you kind of slam that door on them. If you can raise a child to be bilingually fluent, they'll have additional advantage. That's that, Dan, you are, man, it's like money in the bank. You know, it's interesting, in Ecuador, you know, it's like, why you lived in Ecuador for 3 years? Why isn't your why wasn't your Spanish better? And it's because everybody I knew was trying to improve their English, and I felt compelled to use English because in Ecuador you can earn as much as double if you're bilingual. And so that's pretty, you know, that's pretty serious impact on someone's life. So yeah, it really is important. Let's see. Maximize prop. We relocated to Colombia 6 months ago and have a 12-year-old son. He loves it. By the way, it's still your fault. We sold everything in the USA and moved to Colombia. Oh no, it's not my fault. All right, here we go. Let's make it official. It's Q&A time. It's time to start asking your questions. Remember, 4 question marks first, then ask the question. Did that finish or did I cut it off? Okay, what do we got? If I cut it off, my apologies. My thumb slipped. I've got my little control panel here, and oops. When you push a button, just move your hand away. Female friend, and what a button gonna, okay, indicated she's not able to buy food in some places because she doesn't have a vaccine passport. I haven't seen or heard that anywhere here. The stores, like the big ones, the big national ones like Nexigo and Olympica, there's no requirement for that. On the other hand, they also do home deliveries, which is really convenient, but they're not listed on the list for the government. The government was pretty specific about where that is required. It's big events, clubs and bars, casinos, concerts, large sporting events, things like the coffee park, big tourist attractions. That's where it applies. It's not applying to grocery stores, department stores, things like that, malls. So, maybe somebody's doing something on their own. I don't know. I'm not seeing it. Thank you for all your opinions. I feel I should apologize for my opinions. How restrictive are the guidelines in the coffee triangle. The new thing now is this vaccine mandate for the things that I just mentioned and your day-to-day life. I mean, I'm not seeing it in my day-to-day life. But the minute I want to go to the coffee park and take somebody, it will become an issue. So I've gone through and I figured out I'm going to go ahead and do it. I just don't know when. I've been kind of hoping that they would kind of repeal the entire idea since they don't really have an effect anymore anyway. But that's, I don't think they're going to do that. And when people come here, I need to be able to go with them. So I'm probably going to do it. I see they're building a lot in your area, new supermarkets, eating places growing rapidly. No, that's not really a question, but there's been growth here for a decade. It's now what you're getting substitutions. Most things that went out of business have already been replaced. It's a pretty vibrant area. I mean, it still has some of the best cost of living in all of Colombia, but it's a pretty vibrant area. Also, her son was injected with Moderna against her consent, went to stay with her ex-husband. I don't know. These anecdotal things, I'm not hearing anything like that. So I don't know. Do you think I'll get it? Which one? I'm saying I probably will. And I did a video, and it's funny. It got pulled and deleted and dumped down the rabbit hole, and I got a community strike by YouTube for actually giving my opinion. It was on my private channel, and yeah, so that video doesn't even exist anymore. But the funny thing is I talked about this topic, and at no time did I actually say anything disparaging, because I learned a lot about these, and you know, I studied a lot, and some of the dangers, like the blood clot thing, that's actually as a direct result of how the shot is administered. If it goes into the bloodstream, then you got a pretty good chance of having blood clot problems. But it's an intramuscular shot, and what they have to do is do a little drawback first to make sure there's no blood in the needle. If it draws back clean, then you can proceed with the shot. If they skip that step, then you can have problems. The shot itself isn't the issue, it's how it's being administered. So I've learned a lot about it. There's only, of all the vaccines out there, there's only two that are the mRNA, so people that are worried about that technology, which I think is pretty amazing, but people that are worried about it, you've got two other types of vaccines, and one of those two other types are the traditional, the dead virus, you know, handled in a certain way to inoculate you. But the problem is with the variations, I mean, you know, it's, you know, what are you designing it for? So anyway, which one will I do? I'll probably do the equivalent of the Novavax or the Sinovac, possibly the Johnson, because it only requires the one, and if it's administered properly, it seems to be all right. But I don't know, and I'm certainly not here to give any kind of medical advice, because what the hell do I know, you know? What are your thoughts on the new elections coming up? I don't have a lot of thoughts on it yet, because even though it's begun, it's a little out there for me to really kind of gauge what's happening. I think it'll be something I'll be looking at in the near future, and I'll start looking at, you know, there's a whole bunch of different political parties here, and I'll be looking at the different ones and who they've got up, and you know, what is their history, their background. I'll probably, because it's pretty labor intensive, I'll probably pick like the top 4 and do some background on them, and I'll start to get a better sense of it. But whoever it is, if it's anybody who's in the middle or on the right, they're going to be vilified. There'll be false claims about their criminal background, because that's what goes on now. So it's gotten kind of ugly. Other than proof of a double vaccination, are there other restrictions for entrance? No. Lost audio. Has everybody lost audio? Hello, testing. I've got audio working here. Let me look. I don't know. I'm seeing everything. Everything's functioning here. I hear. Yeah, audio good. Yeah. That's one of the upsides here. You know, in the past, when you'd say that, it's like now I can actually look at this panel and I can see it's like, no, I'm broadcasting sound. Going to Pareda tomorrow by bus. Do you think the terminal will be crowded or normal? This time of year, you never know. It's going to be hit and miss, but you won't have any trouble. I mean, I always take either the Metro, the green and yellow, or the Trans-Armenia. They're the short buses to Pareda, and you've got one of those running every 7 to 10 minutes. So I don't think you're going to have any problems. Will it be crowded? Yeah, I mean, it's probably going to be a fair amount of people because you're still in the holiday season. Just because Christmas and New Year's are over, you still got a couple more days. And as a matter of fact, today, tomorrow, Tuesday, you're going to have a lot of people getting back to where they came from because maybe they came here to visit family or something. And so you're going to see kind of a higher level, but I don't think you'll have a problem. But I don't know. You tell me. Are you fine? Audio is fine. Yep. All right. That's awesome. And anything else here? Okay. What time is it? Well, we've got some time. Got another Bills game coming up. 2 more to go. Are we going to do it? I don't know. How about them Cowboys? No Cowboys for me. All right. Any more questions? Any more? Going. I don't mind ending it early if you guys want to. I had some pretty serious topics there. I hope I did them justice. And I hope you understand how important these things are, because it's not every year that there's a convergence of issues like this that can actually change the course of the future of a country. And we have that here. Last year, this year, and next year, we're at that convergent. How are prices? How are prices for what? Look, I still haven't cut my hair. I still haven't cut it. Look at this. I don't know. Prices are great. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know the exchange rate today, but it's been hovering around 4,000 to the dollar. It's pretty awesome. I can't see your video live. I see them after. Question, is Ecuador getting more stricter, especially people traveling? Are things getting expensive over there? Things going up? Yes, and yes. A couple of my friends, you guys remember Sandy, for example? She wants so bad to move here to Colombia with her daughter. And I've talked to some other people in Ecuador that want to leave their country. The restrictions have just been, they've got one foot in the door of socialism, which gives the government the power to do things by edict. And they've been really harsh with their restrictions, their mandates for one thing or another, businesses, shutting down. Here we had the initial thing. year before last. Time's flying. But, so, you know, since then, since November of 20, things have been pretty normal. They do the mask thing, but then even that, nobody really wears them anymore. They wear them down under their chin. If you see my recent videos and look at the people, you hardly see anybody actually wearing a mask. They're just kind of going through the paces. But in Ecuador, it's been very different, and things have been getting very expensive there. They're having a lot of effects that are not like here. You know, here we've had some effect, but the government has been much less involved, and people have made adjustments, and you know, prices have not gone through the roof. So I don't know. I'm glad I'm here. Any advice before moving? What to keep and what to sell? Depends on if you're moving here alone or if you're moving with somebody. But if you go back about 5 years, I did a video on how to pack. Go check that one out. It was about 5 years ago. You'll find it in the library of either Odyssey or in the YouTube channel. And like I say, I did an entire video on that. It took me 2 months to sort through and figure out what I was going to bring, because you're limited. Will you be transferring your pension check to a Colombian bank? Nope. My opinion on that has not changed. It may in the future, I don't know, but as of now, I still think it's, unless you have a particular reason, I think it's a mistake to just dive in and get a Colombian bank. How different do you think Colombia will be with a socialist government if that happens? You know, I don't even want to go there. It won't be Colombia anymore. I don't think that's going to happen. You know, we live next door to Venezuela. I just don't think that's going to happen. It may lean more towards that. Prices are going up. Cat's food went from 15,000 pesos to 20,000 pesos at Nexigo. Yeah, I'm saying, but you know, prices are going up, but they've always gone up some. You know, it's like every year you're going to see price increase on different things, even before COVID. And so how to attribute one to the other, it's not the easiest thing in the world to sort that out. But we're not seeing price increases like you're seeing in a lot of countries. You're seeing price increases in the United States, for example, they're kind of insane. You know, 50% inflation on gasoline, for example. You know, where here it's gone up pennies. So I look at it, and it's more in line with the natural price increases that have always taken effect, with a little premium added on it, but it hasn't been any kind of explosion. And so far, people are somewhat adjustable. How did you find that 25K house in Armenia? I'm not sure what house you mean, but there's houses all over the place, so it's you know, they're there and can be found. I don't know. Send me an email on that. Recommend to follow. None of these injections are safe. Well, you know, maybe they say that, and I know a lot of people say that, but when I research these things, I don't look at YouTube videos of various doctors that have, you know, certain opinions and like that. And it's not to say because they're wrong, it's because they're opinions. And when I looked at this, I started looking at, because they're available now, at various studies that have happened worldwide. And the one I put a lot of credence in was one out of Sweden that studied tens of thousands of people. But there's other studies, and so those are more, they're cold-blooded. They're not opinion pieces. It's okay, we did this is the parameters of the test, this is the results we got. And those are the things that I looked at. The opinions out there, you're going to find a doctor to tell you the entire spectrum, you know, of opinions it could be. It doesn't make it untrue, it doesn't make it true. And because of that, I don't find my information from that. Now, once I did some digging afterwards, just out of curiosity, I listened to a couple of things that were out there, and I said, thank God I didn't do my opinion on that, because some things you find are blatantly untrue if you do a little bit of research. But anyway, Victor, thank you. Thank you. I definitely appreciate that. 10-day festival has started. 2,000 horses today. Don't they have the bullfights this time of year in Manizales? I think that's in January, but I don't remember. Once a year they have bullfights in Manizales. Neoliberalism is the issue of all countries. Mexico, Colombia will likely win as president. I sincerely doubt that. You know, maybe I'm wrong. I really withhold any firm opinion on that until I dig back into it. But Petro has a really ugly past, and he's a proven liar. So I don't think he's got a lot of credibility. He's a criminal that's, you know, tried to rehabilitate himself, and I just don't see it happening. I do think that a lot of university age students are going to vote for him, just like they voted for Muskie in the United States, and Muskie didn't win. A lot of you probably never even heard of the guy. If I obtain a pension visa, do I have to pay 5% of my income toward applying for health insurance? Another video, I've covered that recently, last year in a video. No, it doesn't work that way. First of all, that's not even the formula. It's a percentage of a percentage, which is around 11%. But it doesn't work that way. I was required to pay the minimum. I tried because I was concerned about reapplying for my visa, which I did, and it wasn't even an issue. But it was unknown at the time, and rumors were that they were going to require you to pay this larger amount based on your retirement money, and so I wanted to up what it was so that I wouldn't have some big chunk later, and they wouldn't do it. And so it's based on what everybody else in Colombia is based on, the $37 or whatever it amounts to. It's just a percentage of the 900,000 minimum that they base it on. So in my experience, I couldn't get I tried for 2 months to get them to increase the amount. And the thing is, I couldn't even send them the money and have it applied on the account, because they won't accept it unless it's the exact amount. Because I tried that, and it wouldn't even go through until I put the amount at the right amount, and then it went through. All right, I'm going to leave off that pre-Pago comment. What major cities are near Armenia, and what are the good sites to view real estate for Armenia? Well, the best thing is on the ground, not internet. But major cities near Armenia is Pareda, Manizales, Ibagué, sort of, Cartago. Well, Cartago is not a major city; it's more of a suburb of Pareda. But those are the ones. But it would be a huge mistake to go on the internet, find property, and consider buying it. No big events for you, Victor. Yeah, I kind of, if it wasn't for people coming here and needing to go see certain things, I wouldn't even bother. How is Mike doing? Nice apartment for 160. Mike's doing well. He's probably on here now. He was on here earlier. I truly hope and pray Colombia does not fall for the fake socialism. I don't want to see the mess that comes with. Well, you know, I'm with you. And last I knew, the strong majority of Colombians feel the same way. You're going to take an injection from Bill Gates, Dr. Fauci. No, last I knew, they weren't here in Armenia, Colombia, giving out injections. Now, you know, I'm not going to argue their involvement is how much money they're making off it, and I'm not going to argue that, and I'm not going to say that, you know, it's even effective at this point because of the variations, but I'm kind of looking at it on a more practical level. I mean, I hear what you're saying, but I had to pay 12.5% of 40% of my income for EPS. We should talk about that. It may be difficult for you to back off it, but I'm telling you that I actually climbed the ladder. I could not for 2 months with somebody here helping me who personally knew people at the insurance company, tried to get that increased and refused to do it. Plus, I've had no repercussions, including when I went to get my new visa. So, I mean, what they told me was ultimately it turned out to be true. But, you know, I don't know what to tell you. Would you say you're there in Colombia for the rest of your life? Absolutely. I don't know how much is left. I think on the absolute upside, if everything goes perfectly well, I might have 20 years left. It's funny because, you know, I keep, and I have to tell you, I don't get depressed over this. It's just reality. You know, you get to the New Year's and you see, well, okay, well, who are the 20 music stars that died in 2021? And it's like all the bands I grew up with, they're all dying off. You know, people from the Stones and Procol Harum and Moody Blues. It just goes on and on and on. It's a who's who list of, you know, the 60s bands. And you know, it's like they're all kicking the bucket, and it's like, you know, it's like, and I'm looking at their ages and I'm going, damn, they're all around my age. so who knows? We don't know. But I have no intention of leaving. I'm home. Is there a van service from the airport? Well, there's bus. You'll be arriving with excess luggage. Too much for a small taxi. Well, hire me and I'll come pick you up in a car, an SUV, and bring all your stuff. People that hire me for the indoctrination, we'll say, of how to live here and what to do and get set up and all that. I pick them up at the airport. Something 20,000. Yeah, okay. I hear what you're saying, but I really don't want to go any further than I have on this because I've done enough research where I'm very confident in what I know at this point, and I'm not being swayed by opinions, no matter who they are. So the thing is, everybody can decide. That's there's Mike. So you are here. Please, Mike, look at my message and answer me. I need your help. What else we got? I love Colombia and the people. Oh, okay, yeah. What are the fees for someone helping me with a pension visa? Well, you just go to, it depends, where you go. The agent that I have Mike, you're on here. What was your cost for the visa and to have them take care of it? Now, the nice thing about this office that does that, they take care of the Bogota run for you, so you don't have to go up there and get a hotel. And you're saving time and money. So the money that you're paying him, you would have spent anyway. And I don't know what Mike paid, but last I looked at it, it was right around $500 total for the visa, everything that needed to be done, including their fee. That's what it was. I love Colombia too, but the tax situation prevents me from staying there year round. I would have to pay taxes to the U.S. and Colombia. I just stay no more than 180 days. Yeah, I wish I could be more definitive on this tax thing, but I see this all the time, and I also see in most cases it's actually not true. I will say that your first instinct would be, well, let me check with an accountant in Colombia and let me see what they say. And 4 out of 5 of them are going to tell you about all these taxes you're going to have to pay. And one of them will tell you how you don't have to. And the problem is they're incentivized to tell you that, because the greater that is, the more their fee is going to be. And it's unscrupulous, but it's prevalent. And I'm not saying you wouldn't have to pay taxes, but I'm saying that there's an awful lot of people that think that, and it's actually not true. Betty White, yeah, I don't know what to say about that. But she lived to be 99 years old. I don't think I'll ever get up into that range. Can you post the agency info? It's on the Adventures in Grand Colombia site. It's on that visa video. And if you send me an email, this comes up almost weekly where, I send it off. Maybe I'll put it up as a thing to come up on the screen. But there's my email. So send it off, and I'll send you a copy of their business card, and you can send them an email. They don't really speak English, but you can send it in English, and they'll figure it out. And if you speak Spanish, that's just all the better. But it's pretty simple. I mean, for a retirement visa, there's almost nothing that you need, and it's very little money. What else we got here? Got your message. Cost for the visa was less than $500. That included the cedula. Oh, okay. I had to pay extra for my cedula, and I think for me that put me just over $500. But that was 4 years ago. So, I was at the visa lady December 22nd. She charged 2 million pesos. That's okay. That's about $500. So maybe a little under, maybe a little over, but that's where it's been for a long time. Anonymous. Why, thank you, Anonymous. I appreciate the contribution. And we're coming up on the hour. So I'm going to give the last call to the questions. And turn my email off there. It's distracting me. What do you think? Should I get a haircut? I'm thinking I should get a haircut. But then I'm kind of curious. My hair hasn't been this long in 40 years. Back in my hippie days, I grew my hair. It was long enough that I could reach behind my back and grab the end of it and kind of pull my head back like that. And then most of my life, it was like this, only trimmed. I haven't even trimmed this up. Mullet. Yeah, I'm thinking mullet. There was, outside of looking god awful, the reason for the mullet is it's the best of both worlds. Like you don't get the hair in your eyes, you don't get it, down in your ears and tickling your ears and, all the things that make the longer hair. I mean, this is bothering me. And I'm finding hair plugging up my shower drain. It never happened. But, it's getting that long. I mean, it's getting like this. And the mullet gives you, some hair in the back, kind of, cover up your collar, but the front's like all neat and clean. So maybe I'll come up with a Colombian mullet. Tracy, thank you. I appreciate that. Whoop. It jumped on me there. Grow it out in honor of your first love. Rock a ponytail. Yeah, I was just beginning to grow it back then. Ponytail? Nah, I can't do that. Don't get a haircut. All right, well, I'll leave it for a while. We'll see. It's already really starting to bother me because it's kind of getting down here, and I actually trimmed that up myself, and now it's also getting down into my ears. It's it's kind of. Do you know anyone personally that went for the business investor visa? No, I don't. I know a few people that went for the private investor, but not the business. So no, I do not. I just went in. Barbara asked for how many months. Answered, I don't remember. Yeah, I've lost track. I honestly don't know. Bills by 57 points. Well, they should win this game, but you never know. But it does look like it's kind of the next two games, they should. Man, did they kill the Patriots or what? I was so happy to see that. I didn't know what to expect. Playing on Patriots home turf, and a fair amount of the team held out because of COVID and injury. I mean, it was pretty awesome. And particularly since it was a game full of second stringers for the Buffalo. There's a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. I'm hearing everything that you're saying. I'm just trying not to incorporate it in here because I don't enjoy having videos dumped down the rabbit hole. And sadly, that's what YouTube does. Plus, this is a channel mostly about Colombia. It's about me, my life and adventures for what they are here in Colombia. That's what these videos are about. And while I don't mind mentioning certain things, I don't want to get into deep conversation. Now, I would be happy to do a live stream on a different platform from a personal aspect if people are interested in that. But the thing is, I don't want to. I've tried it a couple times, but nobody's aware of it, and so you feel stupid sitting here talking to nobody. So what's the point of the live stream? So, I mean, if there was a request for that, or when you have a live stream, you can have conversation like that. I also have the ability to do guests, so we could do a private channel and actually have conversations. We could have conversations with up to 6 people and, talk about these things. But, and that might be fun, but it just wouldn't make sense if nobody knows about it and it's not there. And I'm busy enough with this. This is my hobby. This is my job. That to spend the time it would take to develop that, it would take away from this. And I've already got my hands full with this. But if people were interested, it would be easy enough to just do it and not put any kind of investment time into it to build, a listenership. Still looking for yellow lemons. Are they not in Colombia? They are. They're seasonal, and it depends. In Medellin, are a lot easier to find. In Bogota, they're a lot easier to find. Here, it's kind of hit and miss. I got away from yellow lemons long ago because in Ecuador you just couldn't find them, almost never. As I was getting ready to leave Ecuador, they started to show up at Super Maxi, their equivalent of like Exidor Olympica. They started showing up, but by then I'd already kind of gotten away from them. There's nothing you can really, limonada is from lime. I mean, I always love lemonade, but now I love limeade equally as much. And so I just don't have need for them anymore, so I don't look for them. But I know that they're there because people mention it every so often. But like I say, they are seasonal. And I think the thing to do is go into Olympica, go into Exito, and ask, do you ever have yellow lemons? And what time of the year do you have those? All right, we're going to end it here. I want to thank everybody. I really appreciate the contributions. How are limes grown? I don't know. I'm not a lime expert, but they're everywhere here. Caruja, yeah, actually, well, we don't have a Caruja in Armenia. I wish we did. But the Supermercado Lorales is similar to a Caruja as far as that goes for most things. Time to spend $2 on the haircut. Yeah, haircuts are expensive here, right? Actually, a good one here in Armenia is going to run you between 10 and 15,000 pesos. Show of hands for an alternative stream on other topics. All right, I'll hold on for 1 minute to see how many people are actually interested in that. And if we can have, I would say, 8 people or more, then I'm willing to give it a shot. Do you try a river in Armenia? I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Victor, me. Okay, so that's 2. It's 2 of you. 6 more. And I'll hold you to it. 3. All right. 5 more. And we'll have to come up with a time when we can put all of these people together, too. Keep that in mind. Chad, how you doing, Chad? I haven't heard from you in a while. I don't know when you're coming down here next. I keep getting asked that. Mike, yes, also. Okay, 4. I wouldn't mind checking that stream. All right, that's a 4.5. Zachary, count me in. 5. All right. It won't be on a YouTube platform. It'll be on a different platform. I just warn you now, because YouTube will shut it down. It doesn't matter how harmless it is, they'll shut it down. So this video may disappear, even though I've kind of skirted around some things. Depends what the topics are. The topics are probably going to be kind of open. It'll probably be more conversational. Would be my guess. And count me in. What am I volunteering for? We're talking about a personal channel live where we can discuss things that we can't discuss here. Things like, mandates of maybe politics. I'm guessing. I don't really know. I'll probably come up with something to, kick it off, and then people will run with it. From the U.S., visiting Medellin soon. What is your opinion? Does Colombia need to make positive change? No, I think, here's the thing. As you get older, most of the people that I know are 30s and 20s. And when they consider pick an issue, they consider it based on the last couple years. And when I see an issue, I'm considering it over my lifespan because I've probably seen it once or twice in the past. And so maybe in the past I saw an issue, a similar issue, and I got to see the outcome of it. And so I have a different perspective on these things. And so when it comes to Colombia, as you know, I lived here 20 years ago for almost a year. And when I think of Colombia today, I see it through the spectrum of when I was here before. The over 50% unemployment rate at the time, how short people were because their diets were so bad, and how, now it's a routine thing to see people 6 foot tall. I see it through the prism of the change over the course of the years, where the people here that I talk to only see it for a couple years. They don't have that perspective. And the only place they would get that perspective would be from their parents. And it's kind of like the way I was with mine, the way you probably were with yours. Well, they're old. They don't know what's going on. So it gets kind of discounted, politely so, and with respect, but it doesn't really, it doesn't really sink in. So my view of Colombia is, since I was here before to today, it's been almost miraculous change. And so for me, the best thing that Colombia could possibly do is to continue what they've been doing, because it has a 20-year track record of success. Now, it's not overnight. And when you talk to somebody here who's 28 years old, they'll say, oh, this is terrible. Yeah, it's terrible, but do you realize how horrible it was 20 years ago? And change doesn't happen instantly, and all change has repercussions. And so I think they're on the best course. And my biggest concern is if they kind of steer away from that course. And that course is smaller government, lower taxes, kind of hands-off business to a certain extent. And it's allowed Colombia to grow their way out of a lot of problems. A lot of them still exist, but the trend has been good. And so if you change that, the only possible thing that could be better is a trend improves at a faster rate. But then you're taking the unknown and you're putting it where you're removing something that has a proven track record. So that's how I see it. Juka, try anything once. Yeah. Skirting Big Brother, love it. Depends on the day, Sunday or Monday, I'd be interested. Sunday's kind of bad for me. Monday is very possible. Good morning from Austin, Texas. I think this is the problem. People are way too short-sighted. That's why they think the way they do. Look at things over time. Yeah, and it's difficult. You can put faith in what you know, what you've seen firsthand. And so if you're 20 years old, that's going to be different than if you're 30, which is going to be different than if you're 50. The more you've seen, the more perspective you have. Imagine if you could live to be 200 years old, the kind of prism that you'd be seeing these things through. And so there's value in that when I was younger, I would discount. I thought it didn't apply. But as time goes on, you learn that, no, these things absolutely do apply. And that old cliche that, people will say, but they don't seem to fully understand about history repeating itself, eventually you actually get to see that happen. And so you can look at something and say, if we go down this road, I already know the outcome. I know what's going to happen here. But if you're 20 years old, you don't know. And you think, oh, that could be awesome. It sounds great. And so that's what you're running into. And that's all over the world. Thanks for the insight. Always important to keep the bigger picture in mind. Yeah, good insight. I don't know. It's I don't even see it as insight. I see it as obvious. You just realize that at some point. Emil, how you doing? Speaking of which, I don't have it programmed here. But Emil's apartment is open and available through the middle of summer. Thank you for coming on and reminding me. As a matter of fact, the next coffee time will be sponsored by Emil because he sent a good contribution and asked me to mention the apartment. And I'm happy to do that because you guys actually benefit from that. So if you're interested in his 2-bedroom condo apartment that's gorgeously furnished for a price as cheaper than most of the Airbnbs, send me an email and I'll get you in touch with him. We just booked it out for, I think, 9 days from somebody a couple days ago. So it's definitely a way to go. I mean, if you try swimming in the river. Are you kidding me? I jump in the river and there's going to be tidal waves. No, not for me. Rafting is a big thing here, though. I've been visiting Colombia for 12 years and have seen improvements in people's lives. Yeah, it's amazing the difference over the last 20 years. As a matter of fact, everywhere had issues, but in fact, Colombia is better today than the first day I visited. When I was here 20 years ago, the FARC were strong. I was shot at. I've told this story before. It was a dangerous place to live. But back then, I was still in my Marine Corps fit self, 3 years living in Japan, taking karate for those 3 years. I was very confident in my abilities, and I was not afraid of anything. And everybody here was real short. It's like, yeah, you want to mess with me? I was not the least bit worried. But then I got sick, I got fat, I ended up in bed for a few years. And then I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to move out of the United States and I want to go to Colombia. All I could picture is the way it was 20 years ago and how it would have been suicide to come here where I couldn't even take care of myself. I could barely walk. And so I went to Ecuador thinking it would be close to Colombia. It would be similar. Well, it turns out Ecuador and Colombia are worlds apart. They're so far apart. But I didn't realize that. So I go to Ecuador and had a nice life there, but always wanted to come back to Colombia. And once I started making trips, which, you know, I'm bus from Cuenca to Armenia, it's like a 23-hour trip on the bus each way. I started doing those on a regular basis, 7 or 8 of them. And I realized that on the first one, Colombia is nothing like it was before. And by the time I got to that last trip, you know what? That's it. I'm coming. And it's amazing how much has changed. And it's sad for me that when I talk to people in their 20s and 30s, born and raised in Colombia, that don't understand their own history because it's not being taught in the schools. It's sad because they're destined or doomed to potentially repeat some of the mistakes of why Colombia was the way it was before. I agree with you 100%. Huge problem as a petro lovers, and if things change, like you said, yeah, it's. I don't think Colombia's there yet, but it's a problem. I shot a guy for stealing hubcaps. Oh, you remember that story? That was a true story. With my M1 carbine. Biggest improvement they could make for Colombia is a tightening of security. I don't know. Almost everyone I met in Colombia has a story about how they were mugged, robbed at knife, gun point. Been to the United States? I mean, are you kidding me? This is not a Colombian issue. This is an issue of big cities. And you won't get stories of that here in Armenia, for example. Just like in New York City, you'll get those stories in Chicago. But if you go to an area like I grew up in upstate New York, in Bristol, for example, there may have been one 50 years ago. and people still talk about it today. It's a function of big cities and all the issues that go with it. It's not a function of Colombia. And that's something that just, people, they see it through the lens of Narcos or whatever. They look at Colombia and it's a dangerous place. It was once a very dangerous place. But so is Tombstone, Arizona, 200 years ago. It is not a dangerous place anymore, but big cities are inherently dangerous. I have never been even nervous about anywhere in Colombia. You gotta, if you're gonna go to Detroit, you're gonna go to the areas that you're going to avoid areas that you have no reason to go to and are potentially unsafe. You do the exact same thing when you go to Bogota, you go to Medellin. Everybody wants to see how the Colombians lived, and they want to go into Medellin and they want to visit the barrios where the gangs used to be. And there's a big touristy thing. What is it? It's 13, I think, where it's become a big touristy thing where they've got all these gang members that are painting murals now. But it's not a realistic. That really isn't a realistic portrayal. It may be for that, but that's not really the story of Medellin. There's still gangs that exist there. Here in Armenia, you got gangs. But the thing is, as I mentioned before, they're basically in 4 barrios, and they really only impact themselves and the people in that barrio. And that's why this mayor put on 100 new people, and he's been knocking it out of the park. I probably should, put some of these stories up, but he's pulled down 3 or 4. Just in the last couple months, 3 or 4 groups of 18, 20 people each that are basically, they're low level because it's Armenia, but they've been involved in sex webcamming and drugs and a whole bunch of things, and using violence to enforce certain things. And he's been mopping this up. He's really putting an effort in. And the thing is, the last president should have realized, when you have groups like the FARC or you've got criminals, the solution isn't to kiss their butt. The solution is to give up, an ultimatum. Stop or die, And the mayor here, that's basically, he didn't put those 100 cops on for nothing, and they're going around, they're rounding these people up. But they're doing it a legal way. They're not stringing them up from trees, but there's a lot of people going off to prison now that have been child exploiting and all kinds of just nasty crimes. But security in Colombia, I think security in Colombia is fine. I mean, what would you have? The people you're talking about, they got robbed at knife point. So when was it? Was it 2 o'clock in the morning and they're strolling in the park half drunk? I mean, what city are you going to get away with that in? And what kind of security should be there? I mean, should you have a police officer every half a block all over the city? And if that's the case, who's going to pay for it? So security here, you had it was it turned out it was a Venezuelan, but it's not like all criminals are Venezuelan or vice versa. But I put a video up a few months ago with Armenian justice. This kid goes up and tried to rob this old woman, and everybody in sight came running to her defense, gave him a beatdown, ripped his shirt off his body, shredded his shirt. He got up and he ran away. He got out of there, and it was all on video on somebody's phone. That's security. People here look out for each other, but you gotta use your brain. You gotta be, you gotta be smart about what you're doing. If you're looking for trouble, it's just what you'll find. Yep. Yeah. Don't create those situations. People who've never been to Colombia still believe Escobar is alive. Cali Cartel. Yeah, it's a name we don't even want to mention here. It's an ugly part of the past, and people here are really trying to move past it, and they'll find a lot of humor in it. Okay, we went way long today, but I enjoyed it. I want to thank you. I appreciate the contributions, Mr. Anonymous, Victor, Mr. HD Chillin. I want to thank you. And everybody that tuned in. We didn't get to 8, but we're pretty close. So I will consider it, and we can keep talking about it. Well, maybe we'll put something together if you guys are interested. Might be kind of cool to do a Brady Bunch thing where we put a bunch of people up on the screen and then we just hash it out. And then you got a voice also. But Mike, please, I need your help. Send me a message, and we're going to end it here. Go Bills. See you guys later.
Okay.